February 1942, Adolf Hitler publishes his official decree against Freemasonry, stating, quote, "Freemasons and the ideological enemies of National Socialism who are allied with them are the originators of the present war on the Reich," unquote. He then proceeds to name Alfred Rosenberg as chief of the High Command and gives him the right to explore lodges, archives, and libraries, and to seize materials found in Masonic lodges in occupied countries. During the war, Masonic lodges were shut down and looted. An estimated 80,000 Freemasons were said to be murdered by the Nazis. It seems clear as day that Nazism is antagonistic towards Freemasonry. Nothing could be further from the truth.
And all of you people who have been scammed and caught up in this Aryan master race bullshit, and that's exactly what it is. Listen very closely and you'll find out how you've been conned, and you'll find out that everything that happened back in Germany during the 20s and 30s is happening again in the United States today, and all of you are going to make the connections between the New Age, and it really isn't the New Age, it's the Old Age, because it all took place a long time before, and it's just surfaced again, brought to you by the same people. You're going to see the connections between the Third Reich, the Knights Templars, the Thule Society, Freemasonry, the British Israel movement. You're going to see that up until Helena Petrovna Blavatsky came along, there was no super race called Aryans, and you're going to find out all of these things linked together is going to bring you the most incredible sense of deja vu that you've ever experienced in your life. And I hope you're man enough or woman enough to look yourself in the mirror and say, honestly, I've been had. Straighten your act up, find the truth, and stop being led by the nose by these people who would divide us just to put the chains around our ankles.
You may be asking yourself why a study of the relationship between Nazism and Freemasonry in today's day and age is relevant. The answer to this is twofold. For one, an accurate portrayal of history is essential to understanding our present situation. And number two, mainstream World War II history is almost always perceived as black and white, good versus evil, with the Allies as the protagonist and the Axis powers as the antagonist. Those who have studied alternative versions of history, such as the popular documentary entitled The Greatest Story Never Told, have flipped the switch. Hitler, Mussolini, and the Axis powers have now become the good guys, and the Jewish communists have become evil. This oversimplistic understanding of history is not only wrong, but both versions are blatant forms of propaganda. By studying the role of Freemasonry in World War II and its effects on Nazism, a different picture emerges. Prominent Freemasons helped shape the ideologies of both the Jewish communists and the Nazi National Socialists. This means that the clash of dialectic opposites in World War II was meant to bring about a preconceived synthesis. One change in particular was the establishment of the modern state of Israel. Why did Hitler collaborate with Rothschild and send some 60,000 Jews to Palestine in 1933? This was known as the Transfer Agreement. making Hitler the original founder of the modern state of Israel. Why did he do this when he stated in Mein Kampf, quote, "All the Jew wants is a central organization for their international world swindler, endowed with its sovereign rights and removed from the intervention of other states"? Without Nazi Germany, there is no modern state of international swindling in Israel. A journey to the Israeli Supreme Court building shows the esoteric ideology of the true leaders behind the modern state of Israel. A Masonic pyramid with an all-seeing eye sits atop the building. A Masonic obelisk sits in the Dorothy de Rothschild Grove, and a painting of the Rothschilds with Shimon Peres sits in the entrance of the Knesset. Several blocks away is Rockefeller Museum. To drill this scary truth about World War II home, we will focus on the relationship of Freemasonry and Nazism. Hitler will be seen as a mere tool in an obscured but well-oiled machine. As author Carol White stated, quote, "The Hitler Project was a collaboration effort that involved the entire spectrum of the oligarchy and its agents," unquote, as was the entire premise of Nazism. The SS officer Dieter Schwartz exclaimed in his book on Freemasonry, quote, "Freemasonry is an ideological form of hostility to National Socialism," unquote. Yet on April 12, 1933, Dr. Otto von Bords, the Grand Master of the German National Mother Lodge of the Three Globes, exclaimed, quote, "The objectives of Freemasonry and Nazism are the same," unquote. To repeat, the Grand Master of the 200-year-old Grand Mother Lodge of Germany stated, quote, "The objectives of Freemasonry and Nazism are the same," unquote. To make sense of this glaring contradiction, we turn to the Masonic journal Phileletes. Quote, "Several Masonic spiritual families existed side by side in Germany and were treated differently by the Nazis," unquote. The 200-year-old Prussian lodges were sympathetic towards the Nazi ideal, housing the majority of Freemasons in Germany. The humanitarian Masonic lodges, on the other hand, leaned towards the international communist ideal and allowed Jewish membership. Both dialectical opposites, controlled by a higher force in the Masonic game of order out of chaos on the Masonic tessellated chessboard. After the suppression of Masonry, former Grand Lodge members were eager to join the Nazis. It is not known how many Masons secretly joined the Nazi cause, but it is known that a Masonic emblem, known as the Forget-Me-Not flower, replaced the square and compass and was found on various Nazi officers in 1938. This is admitted by Masons themselves, according to 33rd degree Mason Alan Bernheim, quote, "The badge used by the Nazis for the rearmament collections made in March 1938 happened to be the very Forget-Me-Not pin chosen by the Freemasons in 1926, and it was made by the same factory in Selb." Modern Masonic sympathizers point to Nazi Germany as a time of Masonic persecution. The Masonic outcry is that dictators oppose Freemasonry because Freemasonry stands for, quote, "personal freedom," unquote. This is Masonic Propaganda 101. The obscure fact of the matter is that the entire premise of Nazism is founded and grounded in Freemasonry.
The original financing of Hitler, that's in the years 1922, came only partly from Germany. One of the most prominent Americans concerned with financing Hitler was Henry Ford. In fact, Henry Ford received a medal in 1938 for his assistance to the early Nazi Party.
The Nazis claimed that high-degreed Freemasons were willing members of the Jewish conspiracy, yet Hitler kept a life-size portrait of high-degreed Freemason Henry Ford in his office. Henry Ford, who donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Nazi cause, was initiated into Freemasonry at Palestine Lodge number 357 in 1894. He received Nazi Germany's Grand Cross of the German Eagle Medal in 1938, a medal given to foreigners sympathetic to Nazism, and he became a 33rd degree Freemason of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite in 1940. When asked by a Detroit press reporter why he kept Ford's picture so close to him, Hitler replied that Ford was his, quote, inspiration, unquote. Hjalmar Schacht walked hand in hand with Hitler during the 1930s, serving as Hitler's president of the Reichsbank from 1933 to 1939 and Minister of Economics from 1934 to 1937. He played a more than prominent role in implementing policies for Hitler. Schacht, whose nickname was the Old Wizard for being one of the greatest financial wizards during his time, was a Freemason, joining the Masonic Johannes Lodge Urania for immortality in 1908. Discussing Freemasonry in his personal autobiography entitled Confessions of the Old Wizard, Schacht stated, quote, "My father was a Freemason. He was a cosmopolitan. I grew up with these ideas, and I have never departed from these basic conceptions of Freemasonry and cosmopolitan ideals. Freemasonry runs in my family. My father belonged to an American lodge. My great-grandfather, Christian Ulrich Detlev von Eggers, was one of the Masonic notables of the Age of Enlightenment." Now Schacht continues with a bombshell. Upon visiting a Masonic lodge in Turkey, Schacht met with an undisclosed Turkish Freemason who told him, quote, "All of the young Turks were Freemasons, and their secret meetings took place under the protection of the lodge, the only place where they were safe from spies," unquote. Shockingly, the Masonic Young Turks were the true instigators of the Armenian genocide. After returning home to Germany, Schacht and his Turkish Masonic acquaintance founded a German-Turkish Masonic society. But Schacht had even more nefarious contacts, and was even more than just Hitler's financial wizard. He was responsible for founding the Bank for International Settlements, an international financial institution currently owned by central banks. He referred to the BIS as, quote, "my bank," unquote. The BIS accepted Nazi gold looted from occupied countries and was responsible for accelerating the Nazi war machine. In recent years, it has been confirmed that the Bank of England worked hand in hand with the BIS, willingly handing over $5.6 million worth of Czechoslovakian gold to the Reich. This was accomplished through the relationship of Hjalmar Schacht and Freemason Montague Norman, the governor and CEO of the Bank of England and well-known supporter of the Nazis. Who, you ask, has been the major stockholder of the Bank of England since 1798? Well, it's none other than the House of Rothschild, the supposed archenemy of Hitler and the Nazis. Through Freemason Hjalmar Schacht's establishment of the BIS and Montague Norman's Bank of England, the gold heist of the Nazis made the international bankers even more powerful. The BIS continued its existence even after Great Britain went to war with Germany, having been approved by Great Britain itself. All through the war, the Reichsbank continued paying interest on the monies lent by the BIS. This interest was used by the BIS to pay dividends to shareholders, which included the Bank of England. Thus, through the BIS, the Reichsbank was funding the British war economy. And declassified American intelligence archives reveal an intelligence operation known as the Harvard Plan, describing a close cooperation between the Allied and German business world. This nefarious relationship was established through an American banker named Thomas McKittrick, who became president of the BIS in the 1940s. McKittrick kept the bank in business through his close relationship with spymaster Allen Dulles. As journalist Adam Liebar notes, quote, "Thus, while Allied soldiers were fighting through Europe, McKittrick was cutting deals to keep the German economy strong. This was happening with what the U.S. documents describe as the full assistance of the State Department, all kick-started by Hitler's banker and Freemason Hjalmar Schacht. After the war, 5 Bank for International Settlements bankers were tried for their war crimes, including Hjalmar Schacht. The lead U.S. prosecutor at Nuremberg was 32nd-degree Freemason Robert H. Jackson. During his trial, Schacht stated, "They don't hang bankers," and he was right.
Conclusion. The tribunal finds that Schacht is not guilty on this indictment and directs that he shall be discharged by the marshal when the tribunal presently adjourns.